welcome to Slideshow. My name's Dave Hayward. I'm the founder of Europa Creative Partners. This is the final episode in the 3-episode series we're doing with Ed Ortega of Machine & Partners. In this episode, we're going to do a live demo of vibe coding, which is very, very cool, as the name would suggest. So let's jump into the action, and Ed's going to take us away.
This is bolt.new. It's one of many. There's another one called Lovable. There's one called Replit. These platforms they basically use an AI to interpret your English language instructions and then build out an application. So the reason this works is because GitHub and these code repositories are full. I mean, just millions and millions of lines of code to build applications. So we know how to build applications. We know how to build websites. And there's numerous examples, and AI just loves examples, and it has so much training data to be able to do this. So it's so good that at this point, what you can do is you can just type in the application you want, and Bolt will then start writing code to build it. Let's just say you want to have a tool that helps you manage your podcast calendar, your editorial calendar for podcasts, right? I want to create a tool that helps me manage my podcast scheduling. I want to be able to add future guests.
Yep.
And I want to upload and schedule their sessions. After the session, I want to upload the recording transcript.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Simple. The session info should have a title, a description of the topic, and a bio for the guest. A bio and headshot.
Yeah.
Just to make it interesting, okay?
Yeah, no,
All
totally. Right. Why not?
Okay. So, I'm basically describing a little app, and I haven't put much in here.
No.
But if you wanted to, you could put a big list of requirements. You could say everything you want. I want a database. I want a client login. I want anything you could imagine that you've experienced in an application, you could put in here, right? My suggestion is to start simple, start with a basic framework, and then slowly add features as you go forward. I've been trying to build my own client management system, my own project management system using a tool like this with some success. So,
right.
And I'm building something really sophisticated. It's using AI in the background. So it's not a toy. We're building like a real, actual working application. Luckily, I have developers. So if I paint myself into a corner, the developer can come and rescue me. But, it's possible. So let's just let it go and we'll see what happens. So sometimes it asks questions, sometimes it doesn't. So what's really interesting here is once I added that, now it's thinking. So it's going to create a plan for my application. And it says the user wants to create a tool to help manage podcast scheduling. Here's what they specifically need. And it says they want to add future guests. So it's kind of, it's regurgitating what I just asked for. I should create a comprehensive solution that follows good design principles and I didn't ask for that. It's just doing it, and is broken into multiple files under 300 lines each. I don't know why I chose that. Approach statement, I'll create a podcast management system, blah, blah, blah. Here are the core features. Here are the design elements. Now let's design the project structure. And so it comes up with this stuff. Here are the different pages it's going to have. Here's some utilities I'm going to need. And so here it goes. I'm going for it. What's really interesting is that this is writing deployable code. So you see up here in the corner, there's this big deploy button.
Yep.
It is using Next.js. It's using ShadCN UI library. It's using a lot of really common, very almost universal kind of frameworks and libraries to build this code. It's also writing like pretty well structured code. Like if you have a developer look at this, they're not going to be like, whoa, this is crazy hoo-ha stuff. Like the developer might not love the architecture of it, but they will understand the code. And you know how it said, oh, I'm going to try and keep this to 300 lines. That's just good practice in sort of decomposing problems into smaller pieces. And as it's doing this, it's actually kind of writing the code, testing it. If it runs into errors, it'll solve its own errors. If it gets really into a corner, it'll say, oh, I found this error. I don't really know what's going on. Can you give me some guidance? And like that happens very rarely. Most of the time, it'll have an error and it'll say, I'm getting this error. Do you want to fix it? And you say yes, and then it goes and tries to fix it. So
Thinks about it. Yeah, yeah,
it's fairly rare that it gets really, really stuck. And then meanwhile, like look what it's doing here. Like this is the code panel, so it's showing me all the code that it's writing. And here's the layout. It's well structured, but here are the
yeah.
components. This is in React. So layout, here's the UI. It's got badge, button, cards. Here are the pages, the guest pages. There's a dashboard. So and it's just going and like look at the amount of code that this thing is writing. We're talking about all of these files. It's a full application. It's got a TypeScript. It's got configuration stuff. It's got all the stuff that you would have if you were a developer and you were writing this. So the thing another thing you have to keep in mind here is that if you were a small business person and you wanted a little application that did something for your business that could help your workflow, last year, out of luck.
Right.
Not possible. Or you'd have to
Right.
go to a developer and pay them some amount of money, and to get boilerplate basic application, they'd charge you $10,000 for the
Yeah.
most minimal thing, right?
Yeah.
And if you wanted a real substantial application, you could be talking 20, 30, $50,000.
We've all heard the stories about people who go to India to get their magic app built, and then okay later and no app.
Yeah, because so much of that is actually being able to define what you want, right?
Yeah.
And so here you can go back and forth with this. If the podcast app that this thing builds sucks, I can just throw it in the garbage and I can say, actually, I didn't describe it very well. Let me just start over, new application. Okay, Bolt. Actually, what I want is, and it might be helping me sort of understand the problem enough to describe it to Bolt so that it can build it, right? So because this is so cheap, because this is so fast, I could do 10 of these in a day. I could build 10 until I get to the point where I have something that's working the way I want it.
So if you're a school leaver, and I can't believe I'm saying the old days because we're literally talking, 3 years, 4 years, something like that. Going out, learning to code, becoming a developer was a very sensible career choice. What do you think they should be doing now?
It's a really hot topic, a really huge debate right now in Silicon Valley, especially. Are developers outdated? Do we even need developers anymore? I think the answer is absolutely we need developers. It's so funny because if you had asked any CEO of any software company a year ago, like, what's your dream? Like, what if you could wave a magic wand, what would you want? They would probably say something like, I want my developers to go twice as fast.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
twice as
100%.
many features. I want my backlog of things that I want to build built. That's what they would say. Then this stuff comes out and suddenly they're all saying, I want to fire all my developers, right? But that's because they're clueless. That's because they're really clueless around like what the developer's job is. The developer's job is to think and create value. And coding is just a means to an end. So now what we've got is a tool that allows us to code very rapidly. So now your dreams have come true. Your team of developers can use these tools, accelerate how fast they can work, and can build so much more so quickly. But the thing is, everyone got this power. The rising tide lifts all boats. So you're not going to fire your team of developers because the competitor that keeps their team is going to suddenly be 10 times faster than you are. Right? You might have short-term thinking, you might save a little bit of money, but everybody's going to have this power. And so that 10-person development team is going to take off like a rocket, building features like no one's ever seen before, responding to bugs nearly instantly, right? Like all these things that we used to have, you know, be sad about and wish that we could fix are now fixable. The last thing you should do is fire your developers. They're just going to be vibe coding. You know, they're not going to be writing the code. They're just going to be talking to the AI and thinking and working through problems and trying 5 different things to see if it works, and all the things kind of like that we're doing now.
That in a way also what AI is doing generally, but specifically for developers, which I think is really helpful, is it's reducing the amount of cognitive load because it takes away all the repetitive tasks that just suck the life out of you, basically.
Yeah, you get to enjoy your job better. Okay, so our app is done. It is completed. So it built this app.
Oh my
um,
god!
okay, so here's the dashboard, you know, upcoming recorded total guests. I can create a new session, create a new guest. I think these are all going to be empty. There's no guests yet. There's no sessions. You know, oh, there's no calendar. That's funny. And let's see, what do we have for settings? Let's go ahead and let's create a new guest. It's of course Edmundo. Add at Machine and Partners, whatever. That you don't want my phone number. Oh, and I can upload my headshot. I don't know if I have one of those, but it's required.
Yeah.
You know, Ed is a nice guy. Website. Ed does not know how to type. I don't have these things. Let's
For the
see.
listeners back home, that was www.machineandpartners.com.
I have to find a headshot of myself really quickly. So let me see if I can find. Let's see if I go to and now copy image address. There we go. And here's a picture of me from somewhere. Look, it gave me an image preview. That's cool,
Wow.
right? And I'm going to save. Hopefully it works. Okay, there I am. So I've got a card in my guest panel. I've got a search capability. I didn't ask for any of this stuff, by the way, as you recall, right? I
Yeah.
just kind of gave the general idea of the app, and it made a bunch of decisions in the background based on what it thought would be good. So we could add another guest. I can go in here, I can schedule. So it created the databases and all this stuff for it. Now, if I want to deploy, I can go up here to the corner and I can hit deploy, and this app will be live. And it'll give me a URL. And if I want to, you know, put a custom URL and call it like, you know, podcast app. The other thing is like, if we go to, let's see, if I go to sessions, let's go to sessions, and I'm just curious, schedule new session title, great podcast, select a guest. It's me. What time? What's today? Let's do tomorrow. It's got a date picker. Nice 60-minute. I didn't ask for that. You know, Ed in studio, topics, add a topic. Oh, this is great. AI, add. So I can do it. I can start categorizing my topics. Ed talks too much. Private notes, schedule session. Okay. Now maybe if I go to calendar, this still doesn't work. Okay. Yeah. So it didn't create a calendar, so I can go here. This is what's great is I can go to the chat of the tool, and I can say, you know, add the calendar session, the calendar page showing a calendar of past and upcoming sessions in a very simple way. I'm only showing, we don't have to go through all this. It'll take a while, but basically, so it understands. This is so amazing. Like I'm using my words. It understands when I say the calendar page, and it's going to go build it. And, you know, in the background, it's writing code. And in a second, it actually built the thing. Look how fast that was.
God,
so it
that's
built
amazing.
the calendar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now if I go to the calendar, let's see, I think on the 30th, we should see me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. If that doesn't blow your mind, like, I don't know, like, what will. Now,
Mind officially blown. Yeah.
I could, you know, it's amazing that it can do this, but I just want to say a complex app is very, very difficult to build upon and maintain. And if you start making changes, it's really, really easy to break an app like this. It wasn't that thoughtfully architected. It's
Right.
not, these things are not built to grow and become production apps. There's a whole bunch of things that would make them unstable or unscalable, or all the reasons why you would hire a developer to do something like this. So, anyone watching this is probably thinking, like, your first thought might be, oh my God, I've got an idea for an app. I'm going to build this thing and I'm going to, like, put it online and make $1 million. It's probably not going to work that way. However, it, it, if your idea is realizable and you want to test it with people, you want to build a prototype, you want to demonstrate it to investors or something like that, totally, right? Totally.
Yeah.
So, and then for us, we use these kinds of tools all the time to build out prototypes to, if we have an idea for, hey, could AI do this? What would that interface need to be? And I don't need my developers working on that. I can have my product managers working on that, so that the developers, their time is so valuable, and I want them thinking about the hardest problems. So my PMs can just work on things like this and prototypes and test things out and get it really far before we hand to the developers, much more vetted, much more, thought through, so that no one's wasting their time on this stuff.
The other thing is the frequency of it, the ability. It's so unbelievably fast. So what you can, you can, it can move as faster than you can think. And I think one of the other things that's interesting is you mentioned something about putting in, your words, but now that even that interface is getting more seamless with voice chats and things like that. I find my use, I don't know about you, but my use of the voice function on ChatGPT has gone through the roof recently, mostly for convenience, but also because there's something about the thought process of talking to it that seems to get more clarity or something. I'm not sure, but I think it's almost like a user experience thing.
Yeah. 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 I think like I said, like we're still learning how to, create the right interfaces. Like what is it? What is the right way to interact with AI? All this is evolving very, very quickly, and everyone's experimenting. Everyone's throwing spaghetti at the wall. We have these powerful tools that allow us to build prototypes and test things out now, so much, much faster. The next side of the last piece of that gap or that continuum would be custom development. So like my team uses tools like Cursor, which is a coding environment. They vibe code inside Cursor, but also because you have that capability, I'll just give you an example. We built a system that a very, very sophisticated document parsing system. And one aspect of this system is that it uses these things called extractors. And an extractor is like an architecture, and the extractor has intelligence. So you can tell the extractor, this is what you're looking for in the document. And this is what you expect to get out. And this is sometimes how it's found in the document. So you're basically helping the extractor find, identify, and parse the data into what you want out of the document, right? So for any given, for a big document, the kind of documents we're looking at, these are like 100, 150 pages. There might be 40 or 50 extractors that go through to pull out all like 1,000 data points that we want out of these documents, right? Well, we built a few extractors. We got the system down. We started to understand what an extractor needs to be. And then one of our developers was like, well, I think I can just kind of demonstrate to the AI what an extractor is and have it build the remaining extractors. So then an AI used the model of the first 5 or 6 extractors to build all the remaining extractors. And, over time it got better at that so that the extractors did a better job. So that was really, really cool, because at some point building extractors gets tedious.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, well, we know enough now to be able to tell the AI what makes a good extractor. And now the AI builds the first pass of the extractor. And then all we have to do is go back and sort of tweak things and say, oh, probably should change this. Or we would measure the performance of the extractor and go, oh, this one's not very good. Like, how do we make this better? And there's like a hill climbing aspect to improving the extractor. Now, Jean, one of our lead developers, he's like, I think I'm gonna build an AI to do the hill climbing, because he's like, hill
Right.
climbing is getting tedious. So I'm going to build
Yeah.
an AI to basically analyze its own work and then rewrite the extractor to update it. So, you know, it's
Oh,
crazy.
So for like a developer is pretty much in the same boat as the rest of us, which is if you have a task that is excessively repetitive or boring, or you don't want to do it, there's a good chance AI can do it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I,
If
I,
if you can define it, if you can describe it and define it, it's
yeah.
probably a pretty good chance you can use an AI to do it.
If you have a job that involves a lot of cutting and pasting, then you're in a bit of trouble because it's gone burgers as far as this technology's got. Mind you, going back to what you were talking about, like all good industrial revolutions, these are jobs that are not high value. They're not things that humans should be doing anyway as we evolve as a species.
There'll be new things for us to do. I mean, I think just to end on this note, I think there's these big questions out there, like, is AI going to kind of kill all these jobs and there won't be anything left for us to do and we're all just going to be sitting at home eating bonbons and watching Netflix, right?
Yeah,
I find that I find that very improbable, like, and collecting universal basic income, right? Uh,
yeah,
I find that very improbable. That's a utopian kind of, I don't know if that's a dream or a nightmare, but do we really think that capital is going to go unused? This is human capital, right? Do we really
yeah,
think that the sort of the industrialists and the people who sort of run the world are going to allow us to sit on our couch when we can make them more money?
yeah, 100%.
Like, no
Yeah,
way, no
no.
way. Yeah,
And I think one of the things that the feature of the AI transformation that is really interesting is that it's the first one to really come in at knowledge workers, at white collar jobs. All the previous revolutions were generally jobs that were quite manual in nature. And this one is the first one that's coming at marketers or lawyers or administrators. This is a it's a really interesting revolution, really, compared to everything that's come before. So it is pretty radical.
we did mechanical automation, and now we're going to sort of cognitive automation, and that's hard for people to get their head around, right? I mean,
Yeah,
what about managers? What do managers do exactly that an AI might not be able to do better, right? Like, I think there's going to be a huge shifting of like what is required, what can be automated, what's still valuable, what we do. I think we're going to all become kind of AI managers to a certain extent,
yeah.
and sort of our thinking will be much higher value, and productivity, I would assume, should go up, but we'll see.
I think it also for people who work in small teams like me, it it makes things a little bit less lonely. I don't mean like as a companion. I mean like putting together a strategic brief or or responding to a sort of consulting type environment. ChatGPT and Claude are great thinkers, and they're really good at structuring thoughts. They are a bit sycophantic at the moment, so there is a kind of confirmation bias. But even so, I go into presenting plans and strategies and stuff with a lot more confidence than I would have previously, because before it was reliant on me entirely, basically, or me and my colleagues.
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah, it's a whole new world that we're entering. I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah,
Uh,
what a time to be alive. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Well,
and
Ed, thank
thank
oh
you.
yeah, yeah, thank you for coming on Slideshow. What a rocking episode it's been. I'm totally as always. Every time I interact with you, I'm always kind of come away with like my mind blown, a little bit scared, a little bit excited. So thank you for coming on Slideshow, and hopefully we get to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for letting me show off some of these things. I love you know playing with these tools and demonstrating them to people. And I hope that this inspires people to dive in, see what's out there. Don't let ChatGPT be the end of your AI journey. Like, let it be the beginning, and try out some of these more advanced things. Just play with them. There's no downside. You can play all day long. It's really hard to make a mistake or to break anything. And it's just really fun to see what you can build.
And that's it. That's the end of the 3-part series with Ed Ortega. He's the founder of Machine and Partners, and he can be found at www.machineandpartners.com. If you want information about this podcast, you can go to europa.nz/blog, and you'll find the show page with everything that you need to know, but we're afraid to ask. I'd just like to finish by thanking Ed Ortega again for such an absolutely mind-blowing series of podcasts, and to my team, to Europa Creative Partners. Thanks for all your support. Really excited about the next episode. It features Tim Sharp, who is the founder of Gen 8, a generative AI consultancy, and he's a Kiwi like me. So in the meantime, if you could like and subscribe, we really appreciate your support, and we will see you next time.